Tonight is going to be dinner for one, so I've decided to make myself a steak. I stopped by the supermarket. They had fillets on sale for $5, so I thought I'd go ahead and make myself a potato and steak dinner. What I'm going to start off here with is I have a baked potato. I'm going to actually just going to microwave it, so I'm just going to stick my fork in it. That way it's going to be air bubbles. It won't explode. It'll cook faster. I'm not going to cook this all the way in the microwave, but I am going to cook it about 3/4 of the way. And then when it comes out, I'm going to take it, I'm going to slice it up. I'm also going to take my, I have a cast iron skillet on the stove. I'm going to take that and go ahead and start heating it up for my steak. Alright, our potato is out of the microwave, and it took about 4 or 5 minutes. Well, during that time period, I went ahead and took some red onions and I sliced them up just a little bit. I prefer white onions for this dish, but I didn't have any available. I've got my cast iron skillet on the stove. I begin to heat it up, and then I've set my oven for 400 degrees. I'm going to take this baked potato though, and we're going to cut it up to like little cubes. You can just see the heat on that. It's going to be a big dinner for one person. Take these, cut these into squares. Once I'm finished with that, we're going to start cooking the steak. Alright, our pan is beginning to get just a little bit hot there. So we're just going to add just a little bit of olive oil. So I'll cook that steak in. My stove's not as nice as Mom's is. Her kitchen's a lot nicer than mine, but mine works. Alright, here we've got an 8-ounce filet. To that 8-ounce filet, we're going to take just a little bit of garlic powder. We're just going to kind of put a little bit of garlic powder along the top of that. I really like the combination of garlic powder, salt, and you can do that in all different types of things. I've done it to where I've used smoked sea salt, garlic powder, and some smoked applewood sugar all together. We're also going to, on top of our filet, we're going to add just a little bit of kosher salt. Press that in, and a little bit of black pepper. Smooth out a little bit with my thumb. I'm going to put that upside down. We want to get a nice sear. We'll put the same seasonings on the other side as well. My seasonings aren't wanting to come out. I don't cook as often at home as I do at Mom's. A bit of black pepper, more kosher salt. I'm going to cook this just for a few minutes to give it a really nice sear. Alright, that's beginning to sear nicely on the other side. I'm going to take this, and like I did in our last videos, I'm going to cook the bacon on the sides just a little bit to make sure that we don't have raw bacon whenever we're finished cooking it. We are going to cook this in the oven, probably about 15 minutes or so. I like my steak to be medium well to well done. I know everyone has their preferences. Medium is okay for me too. Most of my friends eat their steaks rare to medium rare. If anything, I'm kind of odd. I spent too many years in the food service industry. I love the taste and the texture of the rare meats, but I have such a hard time with the idea of foodborne or an illness because I've had food poisoning a couple of times, and it's not pleasant. Not pleasant at all. So I'm really picky about the wellness and the doneness of all my meats. I think that's one of the things whenever I had a truck, I really took it personally. I wanted to make sure that everyone's food was, of course, not only right, tasted great, but I wanted to make sure that they didn't get sick because once you've experienced that, oh my gosh, it's such a horrible thing. This only takes just a couple of seconds on each side. Again, we just want to get that bacon just a little bit done. It'll finish cooking off once it's in the oven. We got this filet. It's an 8-ounce filet. We got it at the local supermarket. It was $8. So it sounded expensive. When talking to Mom whenever I was driving back home, I was like, you know what, by the time we do a filet with the baked potato and we're going to put a few little mushrooms and some garlic and butter and stuff in it, I was like, it's cheaper than going to the fast food outlets. I mean, it's much cheaper, and you're getting a much better meal. Because this meal is something that you pay, what, $24, $25, $26, $30 at some locations for an 8-ounce filet. Okay, we'll turn that over to the other side. We're going to let that get just a little bit brown, and while that's browning, we're going to put half a stick of butter into our pan. And we're also going to put our onions in to go ahead and get them start sauteing. I just want just a little bit of onions and mushrooms to put on my filet. As I'm eating it today, sticking my hand on that, which is kind of dangerous. I'm not going to say I'm not a dangerous person, because sometimes I am when it comes to cooking. Alright, while that's doing, I've taken a half of a red onion and we're going to slice it into little slices. And we'll go ahead and stick that in there so I can just start getting a little bit soft and cooked. So it's almost like a one pot meal. And of course, if you're cooking for more than one, there's plenty of, there's a lot more room in these cast iron skillets than to cook for just the one steak. Step down just a little bit. We use butter, real butter, and of course this is salted butter. This gives everything a much nicer taste. I've always seasoned my fillets with white pepper, garlic powder, and salt. And we did a couple of catering events, which I found to be absolutely amazing. I remember one we did 120 fillets, and the other 80 fillets. And what we did is we cooked them in our cast iron skillets. We stuck them in a pan, put butter on top of them, put aluminum foil on top. We stuck them in the oven and baked them until we got them probably about medium well. And I was so amazed because we had steak sauce out at each of those catering events, and not one person went to try to get the steak sauce because they just love the flavor of the filet. If you do your meat right, you don't need a sauce. Alright, that's beginning to look pretty good. To that, I'm going to add 4 ounces of portobello mushrooms, which are sliced. And I'm going to add roughly a teaspoon of minced garlic. Of course, it's going to be a heavy teaspoon because I love garlic. I'm going to add just a little bit of kosher salt on top of that. And it's going to be maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. Give that a nice mix. Stick that filet there in the center. It smells amazing. And then, that baked potato we had earlier, I'm going to add that back into our mixture. And that's because I want that baked potato to have that garlic, to be flavored by the garlic from the onions and the mushrooms. I'm going to put a piece of aluminum foil on that, turn it off, and I'm going to stick this in the oven for approximately 15 minutes. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the oven. So right there. The mushrooms have been nice and cooked. I'm going to take that and swirl it around just a little bit. That way that butter coats all of our nice potatoes. Now I'm going to add at this point in time a little bit of red pepper, crushed red pepper flakes. You could add this if you want before you put it in the oven. Or you can add it now, or not add it at all. I just like a little bit of spiciness. Gives a little bit more flavor. So I'm doing maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Alright, I'm going to put the aluminum foil back on top, and I'm going to let our steak rest for another 10 minutes. Take our steak out. It's absolutely delicious. Our potatoes, our mushrooms, along with our onion mixture all together. This is a delicious, simple, and easy meal to make.